Welcome back, everyone. It's the penultimate round of the season. It's SimSeniors. It's round 9, and it's good to be back in the box. Good to see everyone. I would like to apologise in advance. Having a little bit more technical difficulties today, plus I'm recovering from tonsillitis. Not been a fun time, but regardless, we're here to have a good night. We're here to have some good racing and a bit of fun, as the championship is starting to wrap up now. Right out of the gate, some championship standings we want to be taken care of. We've got Lindblom, 219 points, and well clear of Sean O'Neill in second, with Peter Wolfslenner in third. So you can just see the drivers getting ready now in the practice session. We're going to jump over this side before we jump over to qualifying. And we'll talk a bit more in the transition between a quali and the race about what we can expect, but those are your top three for gold. Now heading into silver, we have Justin Cutler with 4 points advantage. So 181 points to Tony McKibbin's 177. So much tighter championship fight for the silver class, with Colin McNair 151 after a pretty difficult race last time out, hoping to get themselves back within that striking distance. Finally, for the bronze, is another tale of one a cut above the rest. That's Paul Hamby, 231 points to Stephen Howes, 168. 159 goes to Mark Hughes, and that is your setup in terms of the championship leaders tonight. We are headed to Snetterton, but let's save the detailed track discussion for after the qualifying session. We're not going to waste any time, folks. We are going to be jumping on to the racing itself. We're going to be going immediately trackside. We're going to be running the standard HUD just for the time being while it can fix some issues in the background. And let's get ourselves jumped in. I can tell you for a fact now, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what these drivers can do. It's going to be a lot of drivers who are racing to get themselves out as quickly as possible. And one of those situations where the championship is going to be hanging in the balance for some. If not for the lead, then certainly when it comes to the racers' potential winning stake. They could get themselves second or third with some good runs here. So this is what it's going to be all about. So we on board with the helicopter here. We can see Zintas is going to be the first car out. And we're getting a little bit of a tour of the track in real time. You can see at points it runs a very close proximity to itself. Of course, Snetterton being a little bit of a different track, and one that takes a little bit more of a reserved approach given how tight some of those corners are. Going to be a tough one for these drivers to negotiate. But let's see what they can do, as we are now going to be jumping to our lovely little custom HUD here. We're back with our intended setup. Thank you for everyone's patience. Yeah, unfortunately, I was doing some work for another league, another series, and they recommended some plugins for their new broadcasting package, and those plugins have not taken kindly to my setup. They seem to lag out my OBS like it's nobody's business, and I am in the process of resolving that, but it's a little bit of technical gremlin that we still haven't got to the bottom of yet, so playing it a bit cautious in terms of the setup itself. But tonight, let's see how these drivers do. Zintas first out, and who's going to be setting the benchmark here as we are jumping in with that BMW. Looking like a right old weapon out on track. And a driver to watch for sure. You see he's going to be coming through quite cleanly, quite nicely. See, at about the halfway point of the course where you get out Williams and into the Bentley straight. As we were saying before, it's a bit more of a tight technical circuit than anything else. It's one of those tracks that you have to focus a lot in terms of placing your car, setting yourselves up correctly for the corners, and making sure you don't wash wide. There's minimal room for error. In particular, Brundle and Nelson, those are two corners to watch. You need to moderate your speed coming out of Bentley. And if you mess up Brundle corner, you are going to have a very bad time because Nelson is deceptively tight and easy to get wrong. We can see Coram into Murray's now final corner before the long winding start finish straight. Pit lane on the inside means that drivers are going to have to be wary of that, of course, when they themselves have to go in. But initial times coming through now. We have, of course, Zintas flying in, and the times are starting to come through here. Lindblom is going to be setting a 47.230 and is going to be immediately setting quite a pace out on this field. You've got a few more cars now coming through of the first batch. Simon Eade just coming through out and in to Brundle and Nelson. It's looking very sharp here. So we're going to be switching over some of the data here. We're getting much better perspective on the times as they're flying through. And here we go, Simon Eade. 2 minutes 5 on the first lap. What's it going to get on the second? It's going to be a 48.992. Just into the 48s there, as other drivers are going to come in and displace in due course. Holmberg is a driver who's making up some very good time here. The Delta is looking very strong. But seems like they lost a little bit of time. Be a bit of remedial action, or playing a little bit safe. We have still got 10 minutes, but 10 minutes is going to mean at least one of those 5 lap slots being taken up with setup. So we're going to be looking at least 3 good runs left from each of these drivers. Time is of the essence here. If they want to make it out and get a good spot, they're going to have to give it everything. They're going to have to push hard. Holmberg is doing just that. He's a second up on the Delta. This could put him well into the top 10. Need to carry this advantage home. It's going to be a 47.9 and into 4th place. Very impressive from Holmberg here. Very impressive indeed. Quite a good run. Can the others hope to rein him in? Damien Reed, another driver we want to be keeping an eye on. Of course, running deep with the silver clasp. Hamby currently sat in 10th, of course, championship leader for bronze. And looking like they have got that championship all but on lock here. As we jump through, it's going to be up into 8th for Reed. That's going to put him 3rd in class. It was a very impressive run, if I do say so. Only just pipped by Engdahl just a minute ago for that 6th spot. Otherwise, they would be well and truly within that top 10. Next around the field, Phil Giles just coming across the line, looking very strong on the Deltas, is going to be into the top 10. And it is going to be displacing Reed out of there. So bronze lead currently Phil Giles with a really strong swing. Is there going to be much of a response from the bronze leader of Hamby? So we got 2 main protagonists in terms of winning their respective championships. Hamby with over a 60-point gap. In fact, they are currently sat with a 67 points to their name, or 63 between themselves and Stephen Howells. So it's all but confirmed for Hamby. They just need to get a good result tonight, and they've got a firm lockout. Meanwhile, Lindblom is sitting in much of a similar situation. They have got 69, or say, there's going to be 69 points if my math is serving to be correct. Oh no, sorry, 61. You can tell that I haven't been getting much sleep. But yeah, Liam Blom currently sat with such an advantage on the Gold Championship front. Really has put that Mustang through its paces. I know there was some speculation early on, but even with that in mind, out of the top 5, 4 cars are the McLaren, 2 through 5th. is all the McLaren 720S. So Lindblom has really just taken to that car and done so excellently. They're currently in second because Jimmy Engdahl has just posted a 7.005. Really impressive runs from all of the drivers here. Lindblom looks to be taking that to the next level. Very wide coming through on Nelson into bomb hole. Little bit of wiggle, little bit of snap coming from the rear of that Mustang. Bit of a Bronco to try and handle. But it more than pays its dividends in Lindblom's case. His driving style really has gravitated towards that Mustang. Extremely wide on Murray's, but still a legal run, taking all of the available track space. And here we go, across the line now, 46.662. That is your new pole here at Snetterton. Lindblom, the number 888 car. Very impressive runs and timings indeed. We've got a few more cars coming through now. Johan Larsson, of course, one of his main challengers, and really a driver that has been taking the fight to that Mustang, among others. Fourth in the championship, could secure themselves as good as a podium in this race if all goes to plan. Coming across the line now, it's going to be a solid P3. It's going to be a 7.345. Still 0.3 off of Jimmy Engdahl, but a great run nonetheless. It's going to certainly be one that they need to work in their favour. With 5 minutes left in qualifying to go, time is of the essence for these drivers. We've got North now coming through. Going to make a solid improvement up to 18th place. Is going to leapfrog 2 other bronze drivers, but that is only going to leave them 4th in class, I believe. Oh no, that's going to be 3rd in class. My mistake. Hamby has retaken the lead of bronze with a .807. 10th away is going to be Phil Giles, and looks like Hamby is still going to be pushing to gain even more improvement on his time. Looking like an impressive run here. Quite the push coming through for Hamby. Many others trying to secure the same kind of time improvement. Lindblom is going to remain out, and unfortunately he was 0.2 up, but just invalidated coming out of Murray's. Just too much on the grass. That could have been a 46.4, but it was just a little bit too much stretch. Wolf Slenner just slightly behind. Are they going to get a better time themselves? Yes, they are. 3rd in class. That is going to be P4. Crazily enough, Tony McKibben is going to be really pushing Cutler to the ragged edge. Remember, folks, 4 points between these top 2 protagonists. Only 4 points stand between them, and right now, McKibben looks to be the one to beat. Yeah, it looks like he is going to be the one to beat for sure. Either way, very impressive stuff all round. We've got a few more drivers out there who are taking some pot shots, taking some improvements. Oldhouse was on an improvement, but unfortunately was invalidated. Mark Hughes jumps up to 20th place. We're on board with James Payton now, another driver who has been doing well, but unfortunately just again invalidates out Murray's. Murray's is looking to be the corner that is the bane of these time trials existences, as Simon Aid is now going to come through. Solid improvement here. They're going to be jumping up into P11, a whole 10 place jump. Very nicely done from the silver driver. Are we going to see many more improvements come through as the final minutes of qualifying are now ticking away? Zintas, one of the drivers who started this, is looking to be one who wants to finish strong, finish on a high. The delta isn't quite there, but even a single 10th could leapfrog them all the way up into P5. So keep at it. You don't know what could be possible. A lot of time is going to be made or broken in that last sector. Remember, Brundle, Nelson, and Murray's, those corners, you can gain a lot of time. Got a few more cars as well coming through. Craig Starkey is also going to be another car to watch. P27 now. What are they going to bring it to? P25. Good improvement, but not quite where they want to be, near the sharp end of the field, unfortunately for them. Cutler is coming up to finish a lap here. And remember, McKibben all the way up in 4th place. That's the target here. Cutler does make it into 8th, so impressive stuff, but still a margins off, about a 10th off of McKibben's time to keep him at the sharp end. These two really are going to duke it out to the very end of the season at this rate. While gold and bronze are wrapped up, silver is going to be nothing but spice. A few more cars are going to be coming around in due course. Patrick Larson, 1 minute left, remember, in qualifying, folks, so this is the last chance for last runs. 18th for Larson. Good improvement all around. Few more cars now on their way through. Simon Aid makes a strong impression coming into 10th place. Looks like that was a spin from Peyton, though. Not sure what happened there, but they were right on the racing line, facing backwards when the camera jumped over. So I'm not sure if they were resetting to pits, or they are resetting to pits, but whether that was a pure mistake or whether that was a bad position to jump for the pits from, because that was on the racing line. Larson remains steadfast and keeps going out. Goes for another lap and easily about half a second up. Starkey is also half a second up. What can they make of this attempt? Let's see what they can do here. Final few runs for these drivers, remember. Starkey currently sat on a 48.802. Needs to get at least half a second to make any meaningful headway. He does get it. He's up into 22nd now, so good improvement. Will it be enough to stake a claim to the rest of that field, though? That is the question. Adam Rios in 4th, jumping up to 3rd. Very impressive run here. Another Mustang staking a claim and taking the lead for silver. See, that is proper procedure for heading back into the pits. You stay off the racing line, you peel into the right side, and then you reset to pit. You don't want to disrupt anyone around you. Ziental's finally coming through on his lap. He's going to make it into P5. That's P4 in class and very impressive from the BMW. Very strong driver we've seen perform race in, race out. At least in terms of consistency, looking very solid. You do see a little bit of a traffic issue coming in, as that was McNair and Starkey fighting for the same track space. McNair was on a lap, but Starkey, I think, was too. Not looking ideal there. I say, was that Starkey? No, that was not Starkey. That is my mistake, folks. That was a completely different car. I do apologize. That was Richard Cook. So Cook was on a lap. Cook did put it into 29th. But yeah, that was a mistake on my part. I do apologize. Both of them running the Bentley. There you go. Let's say pit time for most drivers. Final laps now coming through. Jorge Saloma, last car on the field. Can they get any improvements here? Not sure about it. Doesn't look like it. And there you go. That is the session as good as over, folks. Liam Blom is going to be your one to take the pole position here. 46.662. At least 3.5 tenths clear of Jimmy Engdahl, currently sat in 2nd. And then 3rd goes to Johan Larsson. Very impressive runs from the gold class, setting the benchmark for the session, with Adam Rios displacing a few of them and making a pole for silver, with Tony McKibben coming just up behind. And then Justin Cutler also being a strong contender, just a 10th away. That is your silver top 3 out of qualifying. Then you follow it on with the bronze, and you have quite a dense pack here, only separated by 73 milliseconds. You have Paul Hamby in 1st, Jorge Saloma in 2nd, and then Phil Giles in 3rd. Great runs from all. But we are going to head to a quick intermission, folks. Hopefully you'll stick around after a brilliant race, or a brilliant qualifying session we just had. It's going to be a brilliant race. 60 minutes. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But let's take a quick break so our drivers can get ready. Thank you for your patience, everyone. We're about to get trackside for the penultimate race of the championship. Let's actually talk a little bit about what we are dealing with, because what we're dealing with tonight, it is Snetterton. So you can see the dry flyby coming through here. It is quite a technical challenge for our drivers to navigate, and it will become even more of a challenge for reasons that you are about to see in due course. But what happens now is going to be fairly cut and dry, fairly simple, because the drivers are going to be pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Particularly, got to be careful heading into Montreal. Montreal is going to be the tight hairpin on that left side, and that is where a lot of carnage and chaos can happen in those early laps. They're going to have to be very careful, spacing each other out, making sure that there is no room for error on the racer's part. A little bit of a bad placement is going to be nothing but a bad time coming from both experience and from commentating races past. It's going to be a tough one for these drivers to navigate. Now, we are running a couple of technical issues we're trying to resolve in the background, but simultaneously, a couple of technical upgrades. So hopefully those are coming through just fine, and let us know what you think of that also, because we are very soon going to be heading trackside for the race in full. And a formation lap is just getting underway now, so let's go and see what these racers are doing, folks. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be quite the interesting ride. Let's see what they can do. We're going trackside. Immediately, you can see the track is wet. And it's not looking like a fun time at all, because they're now going to have to be struggling quite a bit for grip and rear-end control. This is where I led a little bit of worry to drivers like Lindblom, because, of course, that Mustang, we saw them getting a little bit tail-happy throughout some of their best laps on a dry circuit with optimal conditions. How are they going to fare now when you have such a situation as this, where the drivers are, in fact, going to be fighting not just the car, not just their opponents, but also the weather and the track itself? This is certainly going to be a tough challenge, and not one that I envy for anyone. Now, as we head into the race, for those who are new here, a couple of key things to note. We have a 60-minute race with a mandatory pit stop for at least a refuel. Drivers also have the option of taking tyres, which will add a few extra crucial seconds to their time in the pits, but it's a trade-off for the drivers between running rubber that could potentially degrade and lose you time, or going for that tyre swap. Those who are good with the tyre conservation can make it all the way and still get a net positive, but it's a strategic option nonetheless. Regardless, everyone has to take a mandatory stop, and everyone has to take quite a bit of caution in a scenario like this. We'll see what is happening as the time progresses. I don't quite have projections right now for the weather. There are no current weather projections. But what we do know is that it's going to be quite adaptive in terms of the drivers racing wheel to wheel. Of course, we'll keep an eye and get info as soon as it comes through. But as far as the race goes, the drivers are now setting up for formation speed, 50 Ks. Allow them to go in double file, heading up to the start-finish line. And then as soon as that green flag falls and we get the call from race control, it is going to be go time. So for the second to last time here in Season 6, welcome to SimSeniors. We're here with the championship. The track is hot here in Snetterton. We're about to go racing, and any moment now, that green is going to fall. And there you go. That's the call from race control. It is go, go, go. As we head into that first corner, immediately, mad dash coming through as Lindblom tries to get a breakaway. Emdahl just following behind. Johan Larsson being left in the dust. A little bit further down, you see, oh, that's contact between the two silver drivers. That's McKibben and Cutler coming together in a massive way. Already carnage being beset on that circuit. Not looking good for those runners in the middle there. And we see more carnage as we come through into Montreal. That's going to be drivers getting kicked wide out of the edge, kicked out of the side. Not having a great time is anyone here. That was Dave Marsh losing some serious positions as Phil Giles is going to be peeling off behind. Hamby is also going to be one who's lost out big time. Currently sat P15. Did have a good position game, but have lost it all in those opening stages. More carnage out on this circuit as more drivers are trying to just fight and file their way into an ideal position. You see more cars in the back end losing the rear. That's going to be McKibben, Serrano, Holmberg, Thompson. In fact, Thompson barely making it out of there. 28 drivers. Yeah, McKibben from such a strong start. In fact, I want to get a bit of a review of that and see exactly what happened, because that was not fun. Well, there's so many accidents that we've in fact lost track of the original incident. There's so much going on in that early stage that my highlight tracker literally could not keep up and capture that first segment. There's too much happening, too many car interactions. The log simply could not keep up. Unreal for what's happening for some. And we got even more carnage happening up at the top. In fact, that's going to be Zintas dropping off big time. Lindblom and Engdahl have just really jumped. They've completely jumped the shot. They're getting away quite substantially now. I'm going to take a quick review, see what happened with Zintas here. So we're going to jump on board with the helicopter. You can see that they are under chase from one of the McLarens. That's going to be, unfortunately, just a poor line, taking a bit too much speed, and that's going to catch both Johan Larsson and the other McLaren. You can see it just coming through there. Really not a good time. Unfortunate stuff. That's going to be McNair peeling off the side of the track, and that's going to be Wolfslenner completely off the track. It is absolute chaos on that track, folks. I think staying at the heli, staying at a safe distance is the way to go. Because so many drivers just not having a good time. It's going to be a little bit of a dangerous rejoin coming in from Wolfslenner. Big differential in speed on the racing line, but luckily no incident there as Robert Homer reacted appropriately. Say scary stuff. Scary stuff coming through. Hopefully things stabilize. Cutler has managed to get a little bit of respite, but I'm not sure if that is going to be reviewed and potentially penalized, because they did onset that collision with the likes of McKibben. There was contact between that and the Porsche. Keep in mind, folks, this is only the first 5 minutes. We've only just had the first 5 minutes. And it's already absolute pandemonium. Some drivers just having a very difficult time. And while things seem to have stabilized now, it isn't going to stop anyone going for some moves. We're seeing a dry line start to form of sorts. And the rain looks like it has stopped falling, at least for now. So yeah, dry line will start to form. The track may start to become a dry circuit. And that is going to be a strategic call for everyone to consider. A solid move from McNair, though, coming through and into third place, leading Silver with Cutler in fifth. Very nicely done for the Iron Brew McLaren. Quality moves. Good, healthy amount of aggression, but not being overzealous. That's the name of the game. Oh, we have lost a car, though. That's going to be Simon Eade. We're going to get a bit of a recap and see exactly what happened there. So you are, we're on board with Simon. Coming through in Hamilton, and then Ogles. Ogles, and you see taking it too wide. Luckily, nobody got collected, but just completely lost the back end, slid round. Unfortunate to see, but they are back on track. Albeit down all the way in last in 28th. See Wolf Slenner trying to take a bit of a recovery in a very nice move on Phil Giles, no less. Very nicely done through Coram. The Berman through Murray's. Again, great stuff. See, other drivers are not faring so well as the race is just starting to get into a form of rhythm. The Old House now looking for opportunities, because Cook did take it for 10th. Alex North dropping back behind Peyton, and also is now graduated down into P28. See, we've bumped the frame rate or the refresh rate on some of our graphics, so hopefully it won't look as choppy as it once did before. Let us know if you notice the difference. Things are starting to settle a bit now for our drivers. And, oh, Phil Giles, Adam Rios coming together in a big way there. Take a bit of a review. See exactly what happened between the two. Okay, Rios coming up. Goes for the inside. Goes too deep. Basically cuts off the Ferrari driver. Which is going to mean a forfeiture of the place. Although, it does look like Rios did manage to take it back on merit. Good to see people noticing the fidelity improvements. We can make it hopefully better and better for this and for future seasons. Wink, wink. We jump forward. We see Cutler. Looking around, looking sharp, looking fast. Testing the boundaries of what they can do with the situation. Now, if I was Cutler, I'd honestly settle and hold back. McNair is further ahead, yes, but McNair is also in a different realm in terms of the championship, so they can afford to let McNair take a couple of extra points as long as they finish ahead on the final round. It's better that than, given the chaos that we just saw earlier in the race, it's better that than to take too many risks. We had a very dicey opening. We don't want anything else to happen to it. Regardless, though, he is going to be looking around Sean O'Neill. Looking to press some kind of advantage. He is going to peel side by side, but I think takes the right choice in opting not to go hyper aggressive. Because again, like we were saying earlier, being overzealous makes problems. It means problems, it means crashes. That's the last thing we want in a situation like this with a wet track. Zintas is going to be pushing against Johan Larsson. He's going to be going for the move. He's going to be sticking it on the inside. Has to jump onto the curbs. So Larsson not giving him set opportunity. Not sure if that was a flashing of the lights in frustration or what that was. Either way, wants that P7. Wants to catch up to Marsh and get some points on his board. Things have started to settle down at this point. You have Simon Aid and Matthias Holmberg now in the pit lane. So they have chosen to take an early stop. With the track now rapidly drying. It is still fairly wet. So not quite ready, I'd say, for a tyre swap. But given they've had a torrid time up until this point, and likely incurred some damage from earlier, I'd say an early pit stop is warranted while you're in your own space. It's a trade-off. Because, of course, you don't want to pressure too hard. And meanwhile, at the top, we've got a little bit of a battle going on. Because Dave Marsh has been reeled in by Larson and Rhodes. Richard Cook is also getting involved in that fight. Let's see where this pans out. See what kind of speeds they can hit. And oh! Not looking good there for Zintas as he's going to be punting Johan Larsson out, it looks like. Not looking good for the BMW there. So now Larsson is going to be running 110% to try and catch up to those three. Zintas is going to go very wide though. It's going to be completely leaving the circuit. Not looking like things are heading either driver's way. Zintas completely departing the track, not coming in until after the hairpin in Montreal. Not sure what to make of that maneuver, but either way, Larson is back into 10th and is now going to start reeling the others back in. Starkey's in the crosshairs with more to follow. Sean O'Neill is going to be peeling off the circuit, having a very rough time, and is going to sacrifice positions to both Hailstrom and Marsh. And the initial target of the McLaren is looking even further away. We have a few more drivers who have now entered into the pit. Serrano and Urso are going to be joining Aiden Holmberg. And Simon has now come out of the pits, but Holmberg remains. Not sure if there is a technical issue or whether this is their form of protest or retirement. James Payton going for the attack, heading into Brundle and Nelson. Very high risk corner. Goes narrow. Doesn't have the pace to make it work out, unfortunately. They're trying to close the gap to Adam Rios, who's their sort of main rival for the time being. Rios setting an initially very strong run in the quali session. But as you can see by that scuffed up car, they're getting the elbows out and they're tired of playing nice. See, that is Wolf Slenner going completely off course and is going to take this time to jump into the pit lane. As the track, I think, is sufficiently dried enough to where drivers are now considering the pits and are considering taking a new compound. Well, James Payton completely leaving course. I'm going to jump on board the heli. Make sure they don't come out into meaningful traffic. Going to avoid Hughes. But they're going to just head back off into the grass. Not being able to get that turn in. Car really is looking like it's struggling. Got another battle as well, kicking off It's going to be Hamby and Reed. Now, Reed is not in the same space, but Hamby does not want to be overtaken by the silver class. They want to be getting up to the likes of North Giles Hughes. They need to get them reeled in. They cannot do that while he's having to play defense for the Ferrari behind. Pressure is most certainly on. Because things can still change. Things can still go wrong. He may be very much clear in terms of points, but that does not give him a get-out-of-jail-free card other than doing his best in the race. Still fourth in class, so respectable result. Needs to kick it up a notch if he wants any chance at glory here. We're seeing a lot of the front runners now heading into the pits. We got Engdahl, Lindblom, Cutler, Hellstrom, Marsh, all jumping into the pit lane. And Aldhouse, along with others, doing the same. This is the crossover point, folks. This is where everyone is now deciding to jump in and to get those fresh set of tyres on. This will also count towards their mandatory pit stops, so fueling up, making sure you can get to the end is going to be crucial. I hope that they've run the numbers, because they are going to need it. They were having some other problems along the field as you've got many cars still on the wet. Lindblom being the only exception who has taken their stop and has jumped out quick. Where are they going to be coming out relative to their opponents on this field? We'll only have to wait and see. Give it that absolutely 100% fight. Give it the push. Give it the beans. Lindblom so far looking like they have pulled out a substantial gap to their next closest driver, which was Engdahl. They're currently looking at an 8-second gap, folks. The undercut has absolutely worked for the Mustangs' case. So a lot of the top runners who just went in. Then you've got Lindblom quite a distance ahead. Cook and O'Neill are also going to be jumping in, and that just leaves a few cars who have yet to pit in, although I assume that is very much going to change right about now. Curiously, Starkey remains out. They're still on that same starting compound. Not sure what the thought process is there. Considering the track has all but dried up, we can still see some moisture on the surface, but skies are clear. Track is now sunny, and a dry line has fully formed. So we have 5-6 cars remaining on their original set. Starkey, North Giles, Hamby, Reed, Lindblom, and then a couple of others. Oh no, Lindblom has swapped out. That is my mistake. So Thompson, McKibben and Homer also yet to pit in. And Lindblom continuing to set great pace, setting purple sector 2. And then we've got more drivers now joining back into the field. Coming back onto that circuit and getting back in fighting order. Butler trying to chase down Hellstrom now as McNair is going to be firmly in their sights. That's the next driver that they need to beat. With a 9-second gap, it's not looking like everything is stacked in their favor, but if they can get past Hellstrom, they're going to be in very good standing. Or maybe even work together with Hellstrom to reel him in. Time will, of course, tell as this race progresses. Some solid racecraft needs to be on the cards. North now in the pits. Reed now in the pits. 5 drivers remain. The Homer is also going to be jumping in. Other cars are now jumping their way out, fighting as best as they can to make up time. Now that we're onto the dry section, it's going to be quite the struggle in order for them to keep their pace and keep their proximity to the rest of the field. You can see Simon, for instance, he's got O'Neill behind, but is not necessarily within that striking distance to be a legitimate threat. So it's that balance, it's that trade-off for them. See if he can keep O'Neill at bay. Let's see what else is happening in the field. Looks like we have got McNair alongside Damien Reed. Now, look at the pace difference. The fact that McNair has taken his stop and is already caught up to Reed speaks volumes. I want to see the corner speeds coming up as we come through this next section here. Watch how much cleaner Iron Brew is taking the corners and absolutely leaving the Ferrari in the dust. That is the difference we're talking here. Fresh tyres on a dry circuit versus ones that started on wet. Still managing to keep some good pace, but it's just fully spaced out. It's just not happening. And a quality run from McNair is going to set himself in motion. Reed is now in the pits alongside Starkey, leaving Giles and Hamby, the only 2 bronze drivers in that lead. They're going to still be fighting as much as they can to keep those tyres going. But you have just Giles and Hamby in first and second, and then you have McKibben and Thompson in 5th and 6th, who have yet to take their stops. Reed is now in along with Starkey to put that to rest. But it looks like you have Peyton completely off the course, folks. Not sure what's happened there. Let's take a quick look at the helicap. Let's see what happened with Peyton. So coming through and oh, just lost the back big time. Luckily, massive runoff on the infield with Murray's. Was able to regain the car, but big time loss there. Not looking good at all for him. A couple of other cars, Hughes and North, could be coming to blows. Oh, very close on the back there. As they went through Agostini into Hamilton. Keep the pace and the deltas up. Not quite having the ability to push that hard. You got Hellstrom, who has just lost a massive amount of pace and is going to yield to Johan Larsson. And it looks like you had Lindblom, who briefly had a moment as well. So he briefly had a yellow flag. Jimmy Engdahl now within striking distance of him, which is certainly going to be a concern. The kind of pace that he'll be able to put out. Looking good for the top 2. Less so for McKibben and Thompson because they, of course, still have to pit, which means they are going to be absolutely drowned in the sea of racers. Any chance of challenging for that Silver Championship has all but been dashed, unfortunately. That poor start, combined with the extended strategy on the starting tyre, has not served them well here. Has not served them well in the slightest. I'd certainly be frustrated if I was them. Or McKibben losing the car a little bit more there. But remains out, remains steadfast. Mark Hughes and North are going to continue that fight. We're coming up to the halfway mark, folks. Looks like North had a bit of a mistake. Bit too deep into Brundle meant he had to back off big time heading into Nelson, and that was an opportunity that Hughes needed to secure himself a solid spot. My question is, where is Hamby? Hamby is currently still out on those original tyres. Going for certainly an aggressive strategy, but I imagine doesn't want to lose track position. Track position is of the higher priority than pitting in on a necessarily optimal time. Maybe they're waiting for optimum because they don't want those tyres to be completely burnt out by the time they get to the end. Remember, those tyres still have a shelf life, dry. And even if you lose a bit more pace now, if you can pull that back by being more in the prime of the rubber at the end of the race, that could pay you dividends. Lindblom currently with the fastest lap of 48.872. As the best that these current runners can match is a 50.292. For Hamby and for Giles, a 50.275. They're going to have to come in eventually. And now would be a good time, if anything, because we are at that halfway point of the race with the next lap or so. Apologies for that, I had to sort my throat out a little bit there. Apologies for the brief silence on that one, folks. So, as we said at the start, still recovering a little bit. We jump back around the field. We can see a couple of drivers with very close proximity. Starkey, for instance, was briefly closing in on the back of Adam Rios. They have got quite a lot of work to do. But so far, P12, a very respectable result. With McKibben coming in, that is going to leave them fourth in class by the time all drivers have taken their mandatory stops. If he can make that a class podium, I'm sure he'll be very happy. After missing a couple of rounds, even with the drop taken into account, the championship hopes could be dashed. But it's not out of the realms of being able to attain some higher spots. Top 5 could be on the cards, with these next 2 rounds going in their favour. Time will tell, but right now time is of the essence. Just keeping a firm eye on Starkey. Thompson and Giles are now in the pits, which leaves just Hamby and McKibbin out of the field, yet to take the stop. It's not going to be a fun time for those two at the front, I imagine. You can see Hamby is losing time to himself lap on lap. Well, he did just get a 49.1. He is still managing to put on some very strong pace. It's not going to last forever. And he is very much being in the crosshairs of Lindblom. Being reminded of the kind of pace and time that he has lost now, as those times are dropping down fast. McKibbin is on a 49.7, but Lindblom just sent a 47.6. So if I was Hamby, I'd be jumping into the pits yesterday. And there you go, you can see him peeling in now. Now into the pits is Hamby, one of the last two. Is McKibbin going to do the same? With McNair and Cutler just a couple of seconds up the road, I think that the championship hope, at least for this race, is somewhat dashed. They're going to have to peel in. There you go. That is the last driver now taking their stop. And with that, the field has now massively come a bit more into perspective, and we can see Starkey has taken Rios for that P3 on the silver. But are they going to be able to keep it? Rios is looking hungry for that position. They're not going to let anyone take it that easy. Starkey going a little bit deep through Montreal is going to be the opportunity that the Mustang needs. Are they going to keep that pressure up though side by side? Not quite. It's going to be a yield through Palmer. Agostini could be another opportunity though. Lots of heavy braking zone means lots of overtaking opportunities. Pokes the nose out but pulls back. Doesn't want to risk it and go too deep like they did with the Ferrari earlier. Not a scenario you want to find yourself in. It's only a stressful one. You outbrake your opponent, force them into a no-win situation and then collide with them. That could draw ire of stewarding. Can result in points penalties. The last thing that either of these two need when they're trying to secure at least a top 5 in the championship. Regardless, Rios presses on, keeps that proximity as best as they can. And then you got a little bit of a fight further down for the bronze third place too. It's Phil Giles is doing much of the same thing. Can they get something done here on Hamby? You see they peel out to the left. Assessing their options, viability of a move at this point in time, looking fairly slim. It just isn't the right section of track for it, in all honesty. Good to see you in the track, Dizzy. Or in the chat. I mean, I say, shame to not see you on the track is more accurate. Hope all's well. Race is going well. A lot of action. Been a good run thus far. 25 minutes to go. Big winners and some big losers coming out of tonight's runnings. Absolute madness in those first few laps. Drivers peeling off left, right and centre into the grass. We're very blessed to have Snetterton tonight with the wets, as there were massive runoffs to be able to catch the cars. Ironically, there's minimal room for error, but a massive amount of runoff. So if anyone gets into major trouble like, whoa, Rios nearly did there, it's not fatal. It's not the end of the world. You're not going to be as likely to incur damage. You have Giles and Hamby continuing to duke it out for the third place of the bronze group. But even further up, you have Mark Hughes and Alex North being the ones to look for. That's going to be a bit of a send coming through from Giles. Are they going to make it work? Hamby has the inside line heading through Oggies and Williams here, remaining committed on that outer line. Can they potentially get a bit of a switchback or at least a better exit speed through the corner? Doesn't look like they can, but they're going to remain tight to the back of that Lamborghini nonetheless. Pushing hard, fighting even harder as we come through down into Brundle and Nelson here in toughest corners on the circuit, in my opinion. Easiest to get wrong, deceptively tight on that right-hander of the chicane, but both navigating it very well indeed. Into Bomb Hole and then through Coram. Again, minimal drama. You want to stay out of the dirty air of your opponents though. Try and get a better exit speed. This could be your ticket. So he tries to straighten up a little earlier than the Lamborghini, but it doesn't look like it makes a material difference as Hamby is continuing to keep about a 0.4 of a second gap. Just enough to remain at bay for the Ferrari. Certainly a wild ride for these drivers here. Rios looking to do much of the same on Starkey, as he has continued to remain behind. And looking like he's doing his best. Oh, looks like we have had a brief technical hiccup. Folks, you have to bear with us for 1 second. We have briefly lost our timing controls, but luckily we've got quite a battle as Starkey is now finding himself in a little bit of bother. It's looking like there's a little bit of panic coming in. Panic setting in for these racers. Okay, and not sure what's going on. Looks like we are having some severe issues with our timing tower, folks, and I can only apologise for the issues that are currently occurring. We're looking to get things back up and running as fast as possible. We want no delays between catching the action that is out on track today. We're going to briefly go back to the broadcast POV for now, just while we try and get things repaired. That's where it looks like we can't shift it even between cars at the moment. I'm completely soft lock on Rios, which is good news for him as he's continuing to put that pressure on Starkey. Again, apologies for the technical issues, everyone. We might have to take a small technical intermission in order to get things repaired, and then be right back with you. Yeah, we will have to unfortunately take a small technical intermission. Thank you for your patience. We'll be right back. Thank you for everyone's patience. We are officially back in it. We are back in, and we are happy to say that we are ready to rumble once again. Couple of hiccups aside, it's good to finally get things fixed, and we are now back in with solid runnings and everything in tow. Looking like it's once again back on smooth. And best part is, now managed to work out some technical hitches so that things are running even smoother. So it's a little bit experimental with the package, but now we are back in the runnings. Unfortunately, say we lost a couple of cars in that whole ordeal. We are down to 24 drivers. We got it in the chat that McKibben has unfortunately dropped out due to, say, the game crashing, which is always unfortunate. But we are back in things now. So we are just going to be jumping through. Let's take a bit of a catch-up and see where we are at this stage of the game, because, say, 15 minutes to go. Drivers have still got some work to do. And we've got Johan Larsson, who's pressuring Colin McNair pretty hard for that spot. You've got Starkey doing the same to Hellstrom, and then Rios following even closer behind, as they are trying themselves to close in and get a gap on. Going to be a little bit of a fight themselves in order to close in, but it looks like we've just had a bit of a problem. We jump up with a helicam. It looks like the number 13 and number 848 cars came together. We're going to see exactly what happened. Oh, a little bit of a rough one there. So Johan does get the overtake on McNair, but not exactly in the cleanest manner possible. Meanwhile, you see Starkey taking a bit of a wide route, coming through and out of Agostini through into Hamilton. Rios has managed to get through on Starkey. Starkey trying to break a little bit later. You see him go for a little bit of an aim down the side, but isn't quite going to get that just yet. Now, keep an eye on this battle over here, folks, because Starkey is going to be pushing a bit too hard, but I think we're seeing a little bit of squirreliness and a little bit of a loose tail from that Bentley. Where are the other field drivers going to be landing? That is another question. We look to the top and we see David Lindblom currently sitting very comfortably ahead. They have 10 seconds on Engdahl, and 20 seconds away is going to be Cutler leading Silver. Oh, saying that though, that is Lindblom losing the back end. That is them going into the wall, and they are going to be in a impossible spot. This is Engdahl's chance. They are going to have a crucial opportunity to take the lead of the race, and they have done just that. Never count anyone out, folks. Lindblom has just lost the car in a big way. And this has meant not only some damage that he's going to have to compensate for the last 15 minutes, but he's lost that lead and is now 7 seconds behind Engdahl's McLaren. No doubt he's going to be absolutely fuming with that one. I would be positively fuming if I was in his shoes. So where is Lindblom going to end up? We're just watching him for a minute because I want to see his car's performance over this next lap. He's struggling. He's certainly struggling. He's not looking as planted as he was since that incident. He's going to have to fight that car, no doubt, to keep it wrangled where he wants to go. And it really is a case of wrangling it above all else. It's a fight to get that car under control and where you want it to go. Oh, let's see now. Giles and Wolfslen are coming together. I was hoping that it wouldn't come to blows between them. But unfortunately, the two of them are going to clash. And Wolfslen, that's the last thing he needs, because he's clashing with a bronze class driver and he's sat in gold. He is just only losing more and more time to the drivers in his respective class. He's going to be staying further and further away. I had to interrupt. My cough session for that one. Well, meanwhile, Simon Aid. Also one driver who's looking to make a couple of moves. Serrano is just up ahead. Serrano barely avoiding contact from the back of him. Can he get that push? Can he get that aggression? It's about drive. It's about power. We're in the final 10 minutes of this hour. And the drivers are running out of time to make any decisive moves. They need to commit where they can, but otherwise keep themselves out of trouble, because they're not going to have any chance of recovery should they put themselves in a bad spot. You can see the impatience of Aid coming out a little bit there, because Serrano is remaining steadfast, remaining on the racing line and just committed to putting down good time. Whereas Aid is weaving left, weaving right, looking for any chance he can get to chase down a opportunity in a position. Looks like he's going to go for a bit of a drag race against the BMW. The BMW is going to commit to that inside line, but is the McLaren going to have enough pace to make it work? They have to bow out. They were aiming for the apex of the corner, and they weren't going to accept that the BMW was there. He's even going to go a little bit wide, as it is going to be fighting hard to retain that position. A little bit of a wobble coming from the BMW Serrano, but Simon has got a bit more pace. They're going to take the bit of the inside, but Serrano is going to yield out. He's going to peel back from the defense and is going to let Aid take P19. Self-preservation, I think, kicked in there for a split second. They did not want anything happening to that lap. They did not want any drama, any chaos. They chose life. I think that is an accurate way to put it there. Did not want to fight too hard for a position that ultimately might not mean much in the grand scheme of things. And one that he can probably get back a little bit easier at another time, rather than defend to the very edge. Potentially put them both in trouble. Got Mark Hughes having a bit of a similar story, although in somewhat different circumstance, as he's on the back of Patrick Larson and is trying to keep Dave Marsh behind him. Now, Dave Marsh is going to be one of the cars that is proving to be this bronze driver's lifeline. He's right in the middle of everyone, and he's proven himself to be a fast driver, but one that, say, lost a fair amount of time and is now on the defense from the likes of Hamby. 1.3 seconds is not an insignificant time, and it is something that can be peeled away from in the space of a few laps. Eyes are going to be on Marsh, at least for the time being, but Hughes could have an opportunity here. See if he can put another car between himself and Hamby as a buffer. Oh, saying that though, he has just had a massive off coming out of Riches. He's going to recover very nicely, but that's about a second of time that he's lost to Larson, and has all but confirmed his position in P10. We're seeing the Deltas having a bit of a meltdown down for P19, and that's what Aldhouse. Pretty sure what happened there, but what we do know that Aldhouse and Aid are still in close proximity. Fight set to break out between them. Aid is continuing an upward crusade after their torrid start. And with the final 5 minutes of the race now closing in fast, this is where drivers need to confirm whether they're going to be fighting for more positions or they're going to be staying where they are. For instance, Simon, 4 seconds between himself and Sean O'Neill, who is in a different class entirely, and then 10 seconds further to Peyton. So is it worth him fighting? I don't think so. It's worth him getting a good gap and then otherwise staying in P9 or P18, bringing it home. Compare that to someone like Cutler, who has got a bit of a more nuanced situation. They're right on the back of Lindblom. Could look to take this, as Lindblom has dropped off on pace thanks to the damage. Is going to go a bit deep in the pursuit of that overtake, but does get it done. No foul play or contact, it seems, there. Space still being left. Lindblom suffering hard. In fact, has got Larson in the crosshair. Yeah, so for Cutler, it is worth that upward push, it seems. You got Sean O'Neill, who just went off and lost several positions. They sacrificed to Giles, Wolfslener and Peyton. Having a off-track excursion, or at least going down to yellow flag speeds. Oldhouse could himself be in a bit of trouble, as he's just dropped down significantly. Serrano, who's just overtaken him, heading into Murray. Wolfslener also fighting for a potential spot. But at the midst of this all, you have one driver who is just completely on their own level, as Lindblom is going to be overtaken by Larson. You can see him continuing to fight the car. Valiant effort, and will still be able to secure P3, provided there's no more mistakes, but still, that one off and into the wall was a death nail for their race efforts, despite being on such strong form. Engdahl is 19 seconds almost clear of Cutler, and over 20 seconds from the next gold class driver. It's amazing what they've achieved here tonight. They've used the situation and put on consistent laps to pull off an absolutely brilliant race tonight. They've made it work. They kept their head down. No mistakes. Even with the overall higher pace of their surrounding opponents. Best being a 48.462. Johan Larsson's a 47.755 and Lindblom 47.6. But it's that consistent fast lapping of Engdahl and a good strategic call that has ended up with them leading the race by a very substantial margin. No drama, no fuss. Just getting it done. They have a bit of a cluster of cars at the bottom as well, as you've got North, Giles, Wolfslener all sharing the same space. The big battle here is between North and Giles. That's the real fight here. Wolfslener is just getting the nose in, trying to get around these two, because this fight doesn't necessarily matter to him. He wants to be back up against Dave Marsh, and he wants to be catching him for positionals on his relative class. But that doesn't undermine by any stretch of the imagination racing that is currently taking place. So giving it full push, going a little bit wide through Williams, but still keeping it hooked up through the Bentley straight here. Oh, a little bit too deep there. Wolfslener trying to push, I think, too hard in pursuit of that top spot. Rough time there for Wolfslener, but Giles meanwhile is going to be still in the thick of this fight. North is still firmly defending that position. You can see him going narrow, playing a bit more strategically to try and keep that Ferrari at bay. 40 seconds left on the clock here, folks, so after this lap is completed by Engdahl, it is the final run around the course. We are going to have one more run around. We have not had the call from the race control tower to say that the final lap is being run yet.
Charles really close. Just trying to get that position while they have the chance. And there you go. There is the final call from race control. The leader is on the final lap and the timer has now elapsed. So one more lap. Then when the leader finishes the race, that is curtains for the race tonight. 32 laps of great driving. But it has to come to an end eventually. We have just had a massive incident coming from number 2414 and number 774 car. Say Serrano and Thompson. And oh, you can see there's a slide coming through. And oh, that is going to be getting both cars. Just a snap of the steering. Trying to catch it. And unfortunately just piles into the side of Serrano there. Not looking good. But in the end, there is only one car that takes the crown firmly tonight. Cutler has made up a couple seconds, so credit where it's due to the silver driver. Really putting in that good work. But it can only be one. Jimmy Engdahl, throughout all of this, has done an excellent job in taking this race by the storm. Oh, taking it by the reins, taking full control, and running it through to completion with no drama. Your race winner, folks, as it comes through the final corner, down the start-finish straight, Jimmy Engdahl is going to take the checkered flag, and for Pro is going to be your winner here for the penultimate round here at Sim Seniors. You've got, say, Cutler also going to be coming through to take the win for the Silvers. I might have to say, take a bit of a review of that early days incident. And then you have Johan Larsson coming in second for pro/gold, and Lindblom taking second. Oh, what is my words today, folks? What is my words today? First, second, and third for gold class. It's going to be Engdahl, Larsson, and Lindblom. First, second, and third for silver. It is going to be Cutler, followed by Colin McNair and Adam Rios. Then you look to the bronze group. You have Mark Hughes just coming across the line with Paul Hamby not too far in tow. And then Alex North taking the fight to the very edge. But in the end, it is going to be him who takes that top spot, with Giles having a bit of an off and losing him in the final moments. That is your race wrapping up, folks. Final couple of cars now coming through to end things off. Simon Eade are going to be the last one to cross the line, as a few more are on their way through. 23 cars, 22 finishers in the end, really. And that is it. Impressive stuff, folks. Unfortunately, not everyone getting that chance to finish. Of course, we have lost to, say, Reed, Aldhouse, Paloma, among others. Holmberg, Rates, Cook. Sad to see some people disconnect and having issues, but some big winners out of all of it tonight. And that is where we are going to put things to a wrap for this evening. And it's almost bittersweet, folks, because the last time that we're going to be going around in Season 6 is going to be next week. Tonight is the penultimate round, and that is somewhat of a bittersweet moment. We're going to be only having one more round, and it is going to be in Germany. And not just in Germany. It's going to be the Nürburgring. The Nordschleife. It's going to be quite the adventure. I think a fitting end to the season is the Green Hell itself. No substitutes. No more, no less. But there you are, folks. That is all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week. It's going to be brilliant. And we'll see you then. Good night.